What's up, everyone? It's Fuzzy. Welcome back to yet another MLB Recap. A breaking trade just happened. The Royals and the Reds are swapping some former teammates and 2018 first rounders. We also have 60 plus, let me repeat that, 60 plus brand new free agents, and some of them actually blew me away, like Patrick Sandoval. The Angels are cutting bait. They are done with the Mexico WBC superstar from a few years ago. He just hasn't been the guy that they expected, and they're done with him. Washington closer Kyle Finnegan is also in that list of 60. You're going to want to stay tuned because there's some names that I haven't even talked about that are pretty surprising. Also, Walker Buehler could be a Yankee. What is going on? We post these recaps almost every single day, so if you want to stay up to date on the game of baseball, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget that Recap is brought to you by SeatGeek and Underdog Fantasy. Use code Fuzzy. So before we talk about the 60 plus free agents, or at least the most important of the 60 plus, let's go ahead and break down this Royals and Reds trade. So Jonathan India and Joey Wiemer, who I didn't even know was on the Reds. I thought he was still with the Brewers. I mean, I'm a terrible baseball fan, but Jonathan India and Joey Wiemer are going to the Royals in exchange for Brady Singer. Let me break down each player. I'll get Joey Wiemer out the way because he's probably the least important player of this trade. He's a 25-year-old defensive monster, and he's as athletic as it gets. The best comparison I have of Joey Wiemer, do you guys remember Bradley Zimmer, who was supposed to be the next Grady Sizemore and was anything but that, but he was a supreme athlete with great exit velocities, a fantastic arm, some of the best defense in baseball. That's what you're getting in Joey Wiemer, just a 25-year-old Bradley Zimmer. Wiemer was kind of the cherry on top. Here is the meat and potatoes of the trade: Jonathan India for Brady Singer. And the funny part about this, these guys were teammates back in Florida. There was a rain delay where Brady Singer was just beside himself, and look at Jonathan India before he had the long, luscious locks. He was trying to console his teammate. I don't know exactly what this means for Michael Massey, who is a much better defender than Jonathan India, but the offense isn't even comparable. Michael Massey had a 294 on base in 2024, a 274 on base in 2023. Jonathan India is an on-base machine. He's also a guaranteed 50 plus extra base hits, and last year, for the first time ever, he kind of improved the defense. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't great by any means, but going to his left towards first base, he was a whole lot better, and that was one of the biggest weaknesses in his defensive game. Jonathan India is going to get about $5.5 million in 2025, and then he has 1 year left of arbitration after that, so I'm not sure how much he's going to get. But the reason why this trade is such a win-win, not only are both teams trading for position of needs without giving up too much, the money's pretty equal as well. Now, I have seen some fans on social media saying that the Royals overpaid, that Brady Singer is pretty good because he just put up a 3.7 ERA with 170 strikeouts, but let me tell you why this is, again, a great trade. The Reds have a surplus of infielders, so they got rid of Jonathan India for a position of need: rotational depth. The Royals have a lot of rotational depth and guys coming up in the farm system, so Brady Singer became expendable, and for the most part, you're paying each guy roughly the same. I will say that Singer is going to make a little bit more in arbitration, but the money's essentially equal when you factor in Joey Wiemer coming with India. Jonathan India's power is streaky and his defense is sus at best. Brady Singer had an almost 5.5 ERA his final 11 starts, so both teams are kind of taking a flyer on positions that they could really use a boost in, and again, I think it's a great trade for both. That is the Royals and Reds trade in a nutshell. Now it's time to talk about some of the most important players that just became free agents, and a lot of them are going to shock you. The Braves non-tendered 3 separate guys: Griffin Canning, who they just traded for, so obviously the biggest reason why they got a Griffin Canning in exchange for Jorge Soler was just to get rid of Jorge Soler's contract. Romano Laureano, he was a dog with the Braves. He's been non-tendered, so essentially non-tendered means that these are guys that the team are not willing to give a contract because of arbitration, so they're just letting them go. Huascar Ynoa, I have not heard that name in quite some time, but this dude bursted onto the scene back in the day. He was also kind of a force in the batter's box as well. Everything kind of crumbled around this kid after he broke his own hand, and yeah, those are the 3 non-tenders for the Braves. Patrick Sandoval is done with the Angels, so because he's going through Tommy John surgery right now, the Angels are going through their finances and they're trying to say, is it worth giving Patrick Sandoval $4.5 to $5 million for 2025 and then a couple $1 million for 2026? They're saying it's not worth it, and his time in LA has come to an end. You guys remember 2022 Patrick Sandoval, a 2.9 ERA with a 9.1 strikeouts per 9? I missed that guy. He had a 3.17 ERA from 2021 to 2022. He was great. Even in the WBC, that slider was slidering with the best of them. I genuinely thought Patrick was going to be the ace of the Angels going forward along with Ohtani, but moving on. So this is one of the more confusing and interesting ones. We talked about this earlier in the video. Kyle Finnegan, who had 38 saves last year, who is still on the books until 2026. The Washington Nationals apparently don't want anything from him. They just cut bait and non-tendered him. Same with Jordan Romano of the Blue Jays. This is as cutthroat as it gets. The dude is from Canada. He is essentially a hometown kid, and he's a multiple-time All-Star. An All-Star in 2022, 2023. If we take a look at 2020 to 2023 over 200 innings, he had a combined 2.29 ERA and a crazy strikeouts per nine of 11.3. He has one down season in 2024, and the business of baseball shows its ugly face. He's done in Toronto. The Tampa Bay Rays non-tendered a few guys, but the two biggest names that I saw were Dylan Carlson, who is pretty much a bust right now. He's a former super prospect for the Cardinals, one of my favorite prospects coming up. I was very wrong on him. He had one or two good seasons, but has not been able to replicate that success. Colin Poche has a combined 3.2 ERA since 2022. And the Rays said, yeah, see ya, buddy. We don't need you anymore. Austin Hayes, a former starter in the All-Star game that sounds like a lie, but that actually did happen. He was traded to the Phillies last year. He's been non-tendered by the Phillies. Nick Madrigal was supposed to be kind of the right-handed version of Luis Arraez, an infielder who got on base a lot and almost never struck out. He doesn't strike out a lot, but also, that's kind of all he does. He plays some decent defense, but the Cubs, they're letting go of Nick Madrigal, a former first-rounder. Talkin, that's an interesting move right there, and they're also thinking about trading Cody Bellinger, so yeah, the Cubs are making a lot of moves to start this offseason. Another former first-rounder that has been a bust at the big league level. I'll give some credit to Brendan Rodgers. He did win a Gold Glove, and from time to time, he could swat you an extra base or two, but he's been a bust. Cal Quantrill, his days in a Rocky uniform are over as well. He's probably going to get picked up pretty fast. A lot of guys across the game of baseball like his skill set. Wow, the Pirates actually did it. They are letting go of Connor Joe. Do you guys remember how good he was in 2023? A 340 on base with 31 doubles. He wasn't as good, I'll give that context. Last season in 2024, he only had 22 doubles and a 92 OPS plus, but still, I thought that Connor Joe was a pretty good name in Pittsburgh. He's done, and Brian De La Cruz, who they just traded for a few months ago, he completely fell off a cliff and was maybe the worst outfielder in all of baseball after the trade. He had a whopping 42 OPS plus. He had a 220 on base. Yeah, they're not going to miss him at all. And then kind of the last of the bigger names, and I'm putting bigger in quotes because it's not like we're talking about superstars or anything like that, but Josh Rojas, he is officially done with the Mariners, and Wilmer Flores, what team was he on last? Who cut him? Okay, that's embarrassing. I am so sorry. It is not Wilmer Flores of the Giants. I did not mean to scare Giants fans. Wilmer Flores is apparently a prospect for the Tigers. My bad. The final few guys that we're going to talk about, we'll just go through them pretty quick. John Birdie and Tim Meza, they will not be going back to the Yankees. Brent Honeywell, he saw some World Series action as well for the Dodgers. He will not be in a Dodger blue uniform in 2025 or beyond. Hobie, I keep forgetting how to say his last name, Hobie Milner, who had one insane season, and the result of that was one of the most frustrating cards in MLB The Show history. He's done with the Brewers. Danny Jimenez, kind of the same story, had one decent little stretch with the A's. He's been cut. Luis Patino, he's back with the Padres after he was traded for Blake Snell. He just can't figure it out. And then last but not least, Gavin Sheets. I don't know if this is because of the Austin Slater move, but Sheets, he's done in the White Sox uniform. And the final topic of today's video, Walker Buehler and the Yankees reportedly have a mutual interest. I'm not sure if Walker Buehler grew up a Yankees fan or why there's mutual interest that quickly in the offseason, considering you just beat them in the World Series. Buehler was not good in the regular season, a 5.4 ERA in 16 starts, and the strikeouts were down as well. But of course, the postseason came around, and Walker Buehler, he was really good down the stretch in the championship series and, of course, the World Series. He was the clinching closer for the Dodgers. I'm actually curious, if you're a Dodgers fan, if Walker does go to the evil empire of the Yankees, would you be mad at him, or do you tip your cap and say, thanks for the All-Star appearances, thanks for the 2 World Series, have fun?